on the mountain side of things, we can just about say that mountain bikes are one by, which means there's only one chain in the front. And there is very good reason to consider that to be the case because, well, our Chinese friends are now making cassettes in the very wide range, which is required for those one-by drivetrains. And what I'm going to review today is one such cassette, the ZTTO, I don't know how that's pronounced. Anyway, ZTTO 11 to 15 tooth 11-speed cassette, which is in a very cool gold color, which is, well, let's face it, it's a copycat of SRAM XX1 cassette. Those cassettes are available on multiple sources, but they all come from one actual source, which I have yet to determine what it is. But they are available in several brands, such as Sunshine, ZTTO, like this one, VXM, or Bulani, or God knows what else, actually. Those cassettes come also in variety of sizes and of course speeds. Mine is 11 speed. There is a 12 speed version. There is a 10 speed. There's 9 speed. There's even 8 speed. And when it comes to actual gearing, you can get them from 11 to 40 to 11 to 52. And when it comes to build quality or actual construction, you can get them in the simplest form, which is a stack of individual cogs, like this one, or they can be on individual aluminium spiders. There's even one very high-end version where the top 4 cogs, I believe, are machined out of a single block of aluminum. When it comes to finish, they are available in black, in silver, which is called chrome plated, I think, in this very cool gold color, which, as you can imagine, was the reason why I bought this one. Because while I wanted the extended range, obviously, I also wanted to confuse people that I actually have a SRAM XX1 cassette, XX Eagle cassette, XX1 Eagle. There are too many X's in there. Anyway, as you can see, my cassette is simply a stack of individual cogs, out of which 10 are gold or yellow, and the top 50 tooth cog is black. Bottom 8 cogs are of course individual with those silly spacers in them, and the bottom 3 cogs are on individual unit, which I think I could probably disassemble, but there are way too many rivets here, so that will be difficult to reassemble. Anyway, I've been using this cassette for about 500 kilometers, mostly of mountain riding. However, I also did something like what you're about to see, which is howling my daughter. The spacing of this cassette is very reasonable, which is 11, 13, 15, 18, 21, 24, 28, 32, 36, here, 36, 42, and 50. Individual cogs in this cassette are 1.8 millimeters thick. Here you go. 1.8 millimeters thick, which nominally is thickness of 9-speed cassettes, or cogs in 9-speed cassettes. So doing that in 11-speed, which is actually okay when it comes to mechanicals of the drivetrain. Nominally, 11-speed cassettes use cogs which are only 1.6 millimeters thick. There is a price to pay, and the price is weight. Let me show you how much does this weigh. First the carrier, and then the cogs. You can already see that this is not something for the weight weenies. 548, 581, 606, 624, 639, 647. The lock ring comes in, taking everything up to 662. And if we add spacers and the 3 little Torx bolts which hold the cassette together, that wasn't very medial. There you go. This thing weighs about 677 grams. It could be approximately 10% lighter if they used cogs which are of the thickness that's correct when it comes to nominal thickness of the 11-speed cassette cog. Performance-wise, this cassette is performing just like any loose cog cassette does, which is these 3 are stiff and they work perfectly fine. These, which are loose and are just spaced using these plastic shims, are rather bendy. Shimano actually noticed this problem, and their lower-end cassettes are spaced using star-shaped spacers, which make the movement of the individual cogs spread across the entire unit, which makes them much stiffer. This cassette, unfortunately, doesn't do this. Build quality, well, you can obviously expect it to be rather low-end, and you can see this, or you don't, depending whether the autofocus of my camera actually works. However, this is simple stamped steel, and the gold color is not what you expect it might be. As I know, or as I expect, the SRAM XX1 Eagle is coated with titanium nitride. This isn't titanium nitride. You can see this is a drill coated with titanium nitride, and the color is different. You can notice that the gold plating on this cassette starts to wear after a while. Okay, now we know how it's built. Now you might be interested how it performs. And in all honesty, it's virtually indistinguishable from a normal Shimano unit. Except for range, obviously, because Shimano doesn't offer cassette in this range. If you take a look at all the cogs, you can see that all the embossments, all the ramps, all the cutouts, all the interesting bits that make a cassette actually work properly with the indexed drivetrain are there, and either our friends reverse engineered them, or they simply came out on their own. Unfortunately, after a while I noticed a problem which I will now show you in a short video. As you can see, this cassette is actually wobbling very hard on a hub it was mounted to. It happened after a recent trip to Alps when I was hauling my daughter, and I was initially quite surprised why that happened, because, well, the cassette performed flawlessly before. What I noticed after taking it off when I returned home is the fact that there are a little gouges where the Chris King hub was touching the cassette, and I think it's not actually an issue with the cassette itself, but with compatibility. Let me show you. Do you hear this? That is a discrete sound of luxury. It's a sound of almost the best hubs in the world, or at least that's what the rumor says. This is a Chris King steel free hub. Chris King free hubs have two peculiar things about them. First of all, there is no lip here where the lock ring goes in, so if you have a particularly wide cassette, you might be forced to buy a lock ring from Chris King because they don't really care about standards. After all, they are Chris King. And second thing, which is peculiar, is this very narrow lip at the end of the free hub, which rests against the cassette. Let's compare this to something much more plebeian. Do you hear this? That's something very ordinary. This is a Novatec 150mm hub of a moniker that I actually can't recall. Anyway, you can see that the lip here is actually much bigger than that on the Chris King, and there is a lip here. And these two things make it much more compatible with our cassette there. Because what happened is the very hard material of the Chris King free hub, which we can expect because it's steel and it comes from Chris King, actually gouged the soft steel of the backplane of the cassette, which we saw previously. So what I'm going to do about this? Well, I'm going to file the burrs which were created by the free hub digging in. I intend to put a shim between the cassette and the free hub, and that I hope is going to fix the issue. My shim is going to be made out of a bit harder material, so the free hub is not going to damage it, and it's going to spread the load of the lock ring, which holds the cassette in place, so there should be no further damage. And I'm going to continue riding it because I actually like it. It's pretty, it's cheap. It cost me just $55. And at the time of my purchase, there were really no other options at that price. And you might be asking what I think about the entire family of those cassettes. Well, if you are interested in going cheap, this is a very good solution. They perform just like you would expect from a cassette of a really known manufacturer such as Shimano or Shrine. And obviously, after recording everything in my exciting monotone voice, I have forgot to tell something very important. Most of the lightweight cassettes on the market, especially in those very extended range like XX1 or XTR, have the biggest cogs made out of very soft metal, mostly aluminum. If you're riding a lot, especially if you're riding a lot in the mountains, that aluminum cog wears down fast. And by fast I mean about, 3 times faster than you would expect from a steel cog. Now, the Chinese cassettes, however, are all made of steel, so they are much more durable in that regard. So if you're buying a bike that's not necessarily going to be raced, but is definitely going to be ridden a lot, those cassettes not only are very cheap, but might also be the most long-lasting ones. And I thought that's important for some people. No, you're wrong. Thank you for your attention. And I think that's about it. Thank you very much.